Hi guys, welcome to another Pilgrim car review. Today we will be reviewing the all-new BMW i5, which is this white car that you see behind me. And you'll see that the car looks very similar to the new and current BMW 5 Series. And that's because, unlike other automakers, BMW have actually gone for a slightly different approach. So in the BMW 5 Series range, you'll find that the exterior is more or less the same, whether it's the petrol version or the electric version. But then owners get to choose between having a petrol-powered hybridized version or an all-out EV like the one that you see behind me. So for today's review, we're going to take a look at the exterior, we're going to jump inside and check out its interior, and then we're going to go take it for a drive as well, because I think this is actually quite a special car. It's new on the market, so we haven't really had a version of this to compare it to, so stay tuned for all that. But before we get on with the review, if you are a driver in Singapore and you're thinking about selling your car for the best price possible or consigning it for the best price possible, be sure to check out the link in the description box below, because through that link we'll be able to provide you the best possible quote for your car. In fact, if you're looking for insurance renewal as well, there is also a useful link in the description box for you to check out. It's free to inquire, so please do so if you are in need of those services. And with that, let's get on with the review. So jumping straight into the review, here is the exterior of the BMW i5, and as you can see, it's a rather handsome looking car. I must admit that when I first saw the car during the launch event, I thought it was a little bit too big for a 5 Series, so almost like a 7 Series. But now that it's out on the roads, even in this white color, it actually does look quite proportionate and quite nice. And while driving, I didn't feel like the car was too big as well. So a little bit more on that later. But just to check out the exterior, as with all electric models, you will see that it does have a sort of a blanked out front grille. The bonnet design on this car is actually pretty pronounced, as you can see some of the curves here. A lot of contours on the bonnet, which I think are quite nice. Being an electric model, you do have the blue accents within the headlights as well, over here. And around the side, you get 20-inch wheels as standard. This is, of course, the eDrive40 M Sport variant, so you do get some M badging on the sides here, and also on the wheels, and these are very neatly done, I must say. The M emblem on the wheels are actually very nice. And then of course you got that blue little bit of trim in the center cap, the center hub as well. So down the side, I think there's a very nice use of black trim across the bottom skirt here, the side skirt here, and that generally helps the car to look a lot more streamlined, as you can see. So not as bulbous as the car would seem if it were in the same body color. And then of course, new to the branding of BMW, you will find the model number on the C-pillar as well, and of course the signature Hofmeister kink. Now around the back, it's a pretty neat package, and with this M Sport trim you do get the M Sport design rear bumper as well, which is all the blacked out bits that you see. Very neat, very handsome. And then of course from this view as well. So generally speaking, I think the new i5, and you know, shortly we'll be reviewing the 5 Series as well, the regular 5 Series. And I think generally the cars do feel a bit bigger than before, but that is kind of expected. With how things are going, generally each model or each new model always seems larger than the previous one. But I think in this particular design, there's still a relatively high amount of sportiness that's retained in the design. So I think that's all not too bad. But of course, I think the M Sport trims will probably appeal to the slightly younger crowd. There is a non-M Sport version that is available for purchase, and that looks a little bit different. But we'll probably see that in the 5 Series review, so stay tuned for that as well. So now let's jump inside the car and check out the interior. Alright guys, so at the request of some of our viewers, I decided to try out a new camera angle. So I'm just going to hold the camera and show you the inside of the BMW i5. So the first thing you see when you get in is of course this wonderful burgundy interior that has been spec'd out for the test car, and I must say these are extremely comfortable seats. I find that the moment you get into the car, you you instantly realize how comfortable it is. You don't even have to drive the car. You can feel it from the get-go. And I think this is one of the kind of telltale signs that the car has really kind of taken a step up in terms of its premiumness. Now, other than the burgundy seats, the other thing that catches your attention is of course the integrated curved display that you find on all current generation of BMWs. But the one in the i5 does have a slightly different operating system. This is the new BMW OS 8.5 as opposed to the 8.0 that you have seen in BMW cars up until now. So generally speaking, if you don't really say anything about 8.5, you can't really see the difference. But there are some differences in the way the menus are laid out. For example, you have faster and quicker access to the climate control menus, not as difficult as the previous version. Aside from that, there are also now these quick select widgets at the side here that allow you faster access to certain shortcuts that you want. So generally speaking, I guess it's been improved a little bit. Now this OS 8.5 system, of course, still part of the integrated curved display, which then is also connected to your full digital driver's display that you see here. And of course, all this is controllable through your multifunction steering wheel. And in this case, it is a M Sport flat bottom multifunction steering wheel. So that's very nice, very cool. And straight up, you do have a heads-up display as well. So that kind of sets it apart from the lower range of BMW cars. This is sort of a more premium range where you get things like heads-up display. Now, around the rest of the cabin, you'll find that there is this very interesting looking light strip that is of course responsible for putting out your ambient lighting, but it's also quite interactive. So if I turn on the hazard lights, the whole car does flash red. A little bit much if you ask me, but in any case, still very cool. And I think this was sort of first seen on the 7 Series. And the other thing that the 5 Series has sort of inherited from the 7 Series is of course the ventless aircon, or the invisible aircon vents, which are now very neatly housed within this slot here. So air comes out here, but you control it through this little button here, or this little dial here. Now, I don't see anything wrong with actual aircon vents, but of course, in the spirit of design and innovation, I understand how cars have started moving towards these sort of aircon vents, and I'm not opposed to it per se. And I think that compared to the aircon vents that are digitally controlled through the screen, I think these are a lot better, a lot more direct and easier for you to visualize where you're actually pointing the air conditioning vents. So I guess if we have to move forward in some way, then this will be a better one. Now, further down here, you've got wireless charging pads, cup holders, and of course your center console houses the iDrive wheel, and of course your drive selector. And in the middle here, got a cubby. Not the largest cubby in the world, but still very decently sized. And generally speaking, I think the interior here is going to be quite befitting of a BMW 5 Series driver. And what I kind of like about it as well is the fact that with this sort of brushed metal finish, you know, if you compare this to a previous generation 5 Series or older generation 5 Series, you'll find that most of the 5 Series cars would already be sort of like wood paneling would be put in the car, and that, you know, generally lends itself to appeal to a certain demographic. But with this newer generation, I can feel that the overall demographic, or the target demographic, has sort of been reduced. It's sort of come down a little bit. And whether you're looking at this car from a luxury standpoint or whether you're looking at this car from a sporty standpoint, I think you won't be disappointed either way. So I think that is really, really cool. Now, let's jump into the back of the car and check out what the car is like in the rear. Alright, so gonna jump into the back of the car now. Now, the first thing you kind of notice in the back of the car is the fact that there are no backseat pockets. A little bit strange, but does make the car look a little bit neater actually. And generally speaking, I've got more than enough leg room here. This driver's seat is actually in my regular driving position, and I am 175 meters tall, and this is the amount of legroom that I have. So a very adequate amount of legroom. I tend to sit pretty low in my driver's seat, so in my current setup there isn't a lot of space underneath the seat to tuck my feet in, but I think if you're the kind that sits up a little bit more elevated position, then you will be pretty comfortable. The passenger in the rear will be pretty comfortable as well. Headroom wise, it is also more than adequate, as you can see. Quite a lot of headroom. One thing I find strange though is that the car still has some sort of a transmission tunnel, and I'm not entirely sure why. It's not a break or deal. It's not a break or deal. It's not a make or break feature, but it would definitely be better if the car did not come with this hump, because then its 3-person or rear seat carrying capacity would be greatly enhanced. But my guess is that because it does share a platform, or sort of share a platform with the regular petrol powered 5 Series, this transmission hump still exists. So a little bit of pros and cons there. Aside from that, there are aircon vents in the rear as well. ISOFIX points for those of you who want to carry children in child seats, and these are flip up models, so you don't really lose the flaps. Pretty good. And I also like that they are colored in the same way, same color as the seats. A little bit of extra effort taken by BMW there, because they could have just made it black, which I think most automakers would, but they didn't. They made it in the same color as the seats, so that's pretty cool. Around the rest of the car, I'm not sure why, but BMW have actually stopped putting in sunroofs or panoramic roofs. I'm not sure whether is it just Singapore spec cars or whether it's like that around the world, but I feel like a car of the 5 Series stature could really benefit from a panoramic roof to make the car feel a little bit more premium than the rest of the competition. But either way, I think the cabin still does enough to make the car feel quite luxurious. So enough about that. Let's jump back into the front seat, this seat, and go for a drive and see how the i5 actually feels on the road. Alright, so jumping back into the front seat, or the driver's seat of the BMW i5, and we're gonna go take the car for a drive. So, generally speaking, when you move off with the car, first impressions is that the steering at this sort of car park speeds is super light, and I'm gonna say that that's a good thing, I guess, because generally speaking, I think most consumers today would actually enjoy this sort of thing, or rather they like cars that are easy to maneuver around town. And truth be told, around town, it's probably a good thing to have lighter steering as well, because I still have a I still have an E92 3 Series that operates on hydraulic steering, and sometimes after a workout session or after a long day, it does feel a little bit tiring to operate a car with heavy steering. So I would say that, you know, the i5 being quite a luxurious car as well, I think it's probably quite suitable to have this sort of steering weight. But of course, steering weight is just it's of course adaptable, or it's adaptive. So as you increase in speed, the i5 does adapt to it and become a little bit heavier. So you're not too it's not too finicky at the higher speeds, you know. But generally speaking, as an electric car, so this i5 puts out somewhere around the vicinity of 300 over horsepower, and this is good for about 6 seconds, 0 to 100. So not an exceptionally quick car on paper, but once you bring it out on the road, you'll realize that it really does move. And if you would tell me that this car is a 4.5 second car, I would absolutely believe you, because it actually feels a lot quicker than its paper number or its spec sheet would indicate. I'm driving behind a F82 M4 right now, and probably you'll be able to match up in speed. But in any case, whether you're looking at the BMW i5 for its sportiness, once again, whether you want it to be sporty or luxurious, I think the car does both jobs adequately well, because truth be told, when you want this car to just be, you want to drive this car in a very chilled out manner, the car does a wonderful job. Insulation is excellent, as a 5 Series should be, and the car is also really comfortable. Around humps, I barely feel anything at all. In fact, I'm approaching a hump right now, and that went over without much of an issue, or without me slowing down too much as well. Like, in fact, I'm going to go over another one now that went over there at quite a high speed, almost 45 kilometers per hour, and no issues there whatsoever. In fact, let's try another one. So I'm just zooming over. That was 47. Very nice, very comfortable suspension setup. So in terms of the lux factor, you combine the very luxurious interior, the very comfortable seats, the fact that the electric drivetrain has no noise whatsoever, and combine this with excellent ride comfort, this will be a wonderful car to drive on a day-to-day basis, whether you're going for long distances or not, or like shorter drives around town. I think this is a wonderful car to operate. Obviously, because it does lack a petrol engine, it probably isn't as engaging to drive as before, or as compared to a petrol version. But what's this guy doing? So I'm going over some pretty harsh roads here. Oh wow, Cullinan with a P plate. Okay, in any case, yeah. So whether you're going for long journeys or not, I think this car works very well, and I think an existing 5 Series owner will find this a very easy car to get used to, because I think of all the EVs that you find on the market, I must say that BMW does make some of the most authentic feeling cars in terms of how close the EVs feel compared to their petrol counterparts. I think BMW actually makes EVs that feel quite similar in terms of the way they drive. So that's a really good plus point. Obviously, there's a little bit more weight involved with the i5 compared to the regular 5 Series, but you don't really feel that too much, I would say. I mean, although there is a weight difference, you don't actively feel it, and you don't feel it when you're driving around a bend. Obviously, if you're going to chuck the car into a bend at higher speeds, I'm sure you are going to feel the difference. But generally speaking, if you're just going around about your day-to-day business, I don't think there's going to be too much of an issue. Right, like I said, slightly less engaging to drive, I guess, but the torque figures and the way the car responds to acceleration probably makes up for the lack of sound, or the lack of an exhaust note, or the lack of an engine rumble. It's actually quite a fun car to drive if you want to really go for it. In terms of sportiness, I would say once again, the 5 Series fills that very useful gap where, whether you are looking to go for a very chilled out, luxurious, calm drive, or you're trying to go for a slightly more spirited drive, I think the 5 Series is capable of doing both things. And going back to my very early point about the concern that the new 5 Series platform is a little bit too big, once you're up on the roads in the car, I must say that you don't really feel it anymore. The car actually feels quite reasonably sized to drive. You don't feel like you are oversized in any way. So that's a really good thing. At this juncture, I'm gonna gun it a little bit. Like now, okay. Still very fun and very assured on the roads. You can feel it's like. And we're into a sharper corner here. Let's see how the car does. Yeah, you do get a little bit of lean, but nothing too scary. So, rounding off this review, I'm gonna say that I like the BMW 5 Series or the i5 because I think it offers 5 Series drivers or owners a very clear choice, between different drivetrains without compromising on the rest of the car. So, with other automakers, for example, Mercedes-Benz, the E-Class and the EQE are actually very, very different cars, both in terms of styling and in terms of the way they have been fitted. And so it's not just the drivetrain that's different. The entire car feels like it's positioned differently. But in the case of BMW, the 5 Series and the i5 are positioned exactly the same in terms of its outlook, the way the car looks, the way the car feels, the way the car is equipped. It's just the drivetrain that's different. And so essentially, it's really more of a lifestyle choice as to which drivetrain suits you a lot better. And I think if you're the kind of 5 Series owner that traditionally, if you're the kind that wants to modify your car, tune it a little bit, that's probably then you probably fall into the category of those who want to probably still keep with a petrol powered 5 Series. But if you are the kind of person who bought a 5 Series because you wanted a little bit of luxury and a very, very for lack of a better word, highly spec'd car for the price, then I think moving electric will probably suit you very well, because then you don't have to worry about maintenance costs so much. You don't have to worry about engine maintenance, transmission maintenance. It's just a very clear-cut, simple to drive car that's very well built, very quiet, very comfortable, very luxurious, and I think it ticks all those boxes. Now, if there's something that you would like to know about the BMW i5 that I happen to miss out on, please put your question in the description box, or sorry, not the description box, in the comment section below, and I'll do my best to answer them. As long as the question is not nonsensical, I'll do my best to answer those questions. And of course, if you have enjoyed this review or found it useful in any way, shape or form, be sure to give this video a like and consider subscribing to the channel, because we got more reviews coming up every single week, and it'll be wonderful if you could join us for those reviews. Now, before we go, if you are a driver in Singapore and you want to sell your used car for the best price possible, or consign it for the best price possible, be sure to check out the link in the description box below, because through those links we will be able to provide you the highest possible quote and valuation for your used car. If you are in need of insurance renewal for your car, be sure to check out the link as well, because we got one of the best prices in town, and it's also free to inquire. So if you need an additional quote to compare against your existing quote, be sure to inquire. We'll be more than happy to provide you that quote. And with that, we come to the end of our review. So as usual, please take care of yourself, stay safe, and we'll see you next time. Bye bye.